But disagree would be 49 to, what would that be? If 20 is 80, then 20, so 49 to 21 is disagree, and then 20 to 1 would be strongly disagree, and still have 0 as room,
0 to 1,
and 100 to
99 to 100
to have room on each end. This is Libby Road and the Sound Epistemology podcast. On this episode of the podcast, Rupert and I return to the Street Espistemology survey and explore number 3. And even after many hours of filming, editing, and reviewing our discussion, we're realizing how little we understand each other. While editing this episode, a powerful question came up. How can we tell when complete understanding is reached? Is there a way to tell? It's something to keep in mind while watching the remainder of this video series, and perhaps more importantly, how little we understand each other in our daily interactions. It's also important to keep in mind that this is not a typical SE conversation. It's two friends familiar with the approach, exploring our relationship with reality and truth. So here it is, number 3.
Truth depends on the opinions and beliefs of people. Okay, that doesn't surprise me that we've used the scale in that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's explore your strongly disagree, knowing that your strongly disagree and my disagree are closer than we maybe realize if we were coming into this without having explored our scale definitions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, talk to me about strongly agree, and I suppose, where or if there's room for error there.
So what did I say before? Strongly disagree is from 1 to, was it 19?
Yeah, either 19 or 20.
20. Yeah, including 20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm between 1 and 20 in agreement about that statement. And the statement is, truth depends on the opinions and beliefs of people. The reason why I strongly disagree with that is because the opinions and beliefs of people have no effect on what the truth is.
Mm-hmm.
An example would be, there was probably a time where everybody on Earth, their opinion and their belief that they were living on a flat Earth, everybody or most people believed that we were living on a flat Earth. The evidence points to that to be incorrect. So just because everybody believes it or has an opinion one way or the other about it has no effect on the truth of the actual reality that's happening.
Right.
It kind of talks about the logical fallacy of argumentum ad populum, or the bandwagon fallacy, which states just because everybody believes it doesn't make it true. And I think that's what this question is kind of getting at.
Yeah, I agree. I think people's opinions and beliefs, I think they influence reality because they can influence the people around them. What you focus on can be given more, can play out more than what you don't focus on. When it comes to truth, and I think what you're talking about is like absolute truths, either the world's flat or the world's round, which is the truth. But again, I think it might not be round. It might just look round from our sensory perception. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you've ever done the exercise of imagining what a quantum cube looks like. So we've got a three-dimensional cube we can see in space. There's an exercise you can do to visualize what shape a quantum cube would take on, and I highly recommend doing it. I'd like to look it up again. It's been at least a decade, if not 2 decades, since I've done that. You have some really strange dreams when you do that, because you're imagining a shape that you have absolutely no ability to visualize, to comprehend, but it exists. It could potentially exist. It just looks like nothing that we've ever seen.
Could potentially exist.
It could potentially exist. Yeah. It's like the you remember the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and the mice. That's the protrusion from their dimension that we can see, but that their being is, there's more to them than just the mice that protrudes into our three-dimensional space. And so the gag is that because we experiment on mice throughout history, that this race of beings is influencing our science, because they're not just haphazardly, randomly going through the maze. They're doing it in such a way that leads humanity into to believe certain answers, certain scientific responses, certain scientific truths. And it's a pretty cool gag, actually, when you break it down to like what the consequences would be of mice actually being smarter than we believe them to be.
Mm-hmm.
They would have severely influenced the human race and scientific experiments, because that's a big part of what, these experiments are done on mice. And so the concept that these are higher dimensional beings, and that's what's sticking into our reality, I kind of think about, or I'm using the example of the world being round in that regard, that it could be that the world has a shape of a completely different structure than we're able to comprehend or see. And so people that thought the earth was flat based on what they could see of the world, you could forgive them that, because they didn't have another perspective. Now that we have the perspective of what the planet looks like from off planet, we can see that very distinctly looks to be a sphere, looks to be like a round bowl.
I guess it depends on what our agreement of the definition of round means. So I think the best description, or the most accurate description that I've heard, is like oblate spheroid or oblong spheroid, because it's not perfectly round. It kind of wobbles. So, and what it sounds like you're saying is it's possible that it could be a shape that we have not yet experienced.
So I think it would be foolish to say 100% the earth is round.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it would be foolish to say anything is 100%.
I agree.
Yeah. But if we both agree that round or spherical has these certain properties, and we say that the earth is round and has those, or that spherical properties, saying that we agree with that definition, we can kind of make other determinations about what's round and what's square.
Yeah.
Like if I were to say that the earth could be square, or like a Rubik's cube, we could talk about that and say, well, I'm convinced that the earth is not this cube shape, and these are the reasons why. We can talk about those reasons. Is that kind of what?
Yeah, and I think, so then if we come back to the question, truth depends on the opinions and beliefs of others. Most of us have the opinion that there's pretty reliable photographic evidence that what we're spinning around on looks to be a
sphere as we define it.
As we
define sphere.
Yeah. I think there's a certain amount of belief that has to happen because I haven't been off-world to have that view myself. So then I suppose we're looking at, well, what's the evidence? How reliable is the evidence? And I think there's such a wealth of evidence that it's pretty hard to dispute that. Yeah, that's that.
And if it was my belief, in my opinion, that the Earth is a cube, like a Rubik's Cube, that has no effect on whether it's a Rubik's Cube shape or spherical.
Right.
That's kind of,
Right, it would change the way you interact with the planet and the people that share the opinion and belief that you have. So there would be some consequences to it, but it wouldn't change the fact that it is not a cube.
Yeah, my opinion about the shape of the Earth has nothing to do with the actual shape of the Earth.
Yeah.
Has no effect on it. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and I would say there's room for it to have effect on it just because of the way it's being interacted with. But I guess that's more of a perceptual it's more of a behavioral statement than a absolute fact truth statement. Because what you're saying is, well, the shape doesn't change just because we interact with it thinking that it's a cube. Am I right?
I wouldn't add interact with it as far as what the question I think is asking.
Well, opinions and beliefs are interactions, right?
Opinions and beliefs, from my point of view, have on their own no effect on objective reality. I can't believe something hard enough and then that thing become true because I believed it hard enough. I can't change reality just by believing something else.
Yeah, and you're at 100% on that.
I'm not 100% on anything.
Okay. All right. So
but I strongly agree with this, or I strongly disagree with the statement that truth depends on opinions and beliefs of people. Because a lot of people have opinions and beliefs that don't align with reality based on the evidence that we have.
Yeah, I agree.
Somebody can have a belief that they're very confident in. That's not going to affect whether that belief is true or not.
Yeah, and I don't strongly agree with you, but I agree with you. That's why I disagree with this question instead of strongly disagreeing with it.